How do we heal from the pain that has been passed down to us without passing it down ourselves? Hey, it's Alex. Welcome to This Is Fine, a Millennial Diary. We've entered a brand new chapter, Volume 7, Family, Culture, and Generational Disconnect. And this one's personal. If Volume 6 was about the jobs that broke us, this one's about the people who built us, and sometimes the ones who broke us too. Over the next 10 episodes, we're going to unpack all the stuff that lives under the surface: generational trauma, guilt, boundaries, family expectations, and how we carry stories that started long before we were born. And today we're kicking it off with one of the hardest truths we'll ever face. We inherit more than eye color and last names. We inherit pain, patterns, fear, silence, and if we're lucky, the courage to end this entire cycle. So let's talk about what it means to stop passing down the pain around like it's some heirloom. For a lot of us, our parents survived. That's the word, survived. You see, they grew up in harder times where survival meant suppression. You didn't talk about emotions. You didn't set boundaries. Well, you just kept going. And they handed that survival mode to us like a set of mismatched Tupperware. I use that a lot because honestly, if I think back at the 90s and think about back when I was a kid, Tupperware was everywhere. And I remember coming home from parties, events, even just visiting family or friends with tons of Tupperware and leftovers. And well, that made for a mess. And if you ever opened that bottom drawer underneath the counter, you saw a mess of Tupperware with mix match lids, sometimes not even a lid, right? Like we would just go home with tinfoil used as a lid. As I mentioned before, they handed that survival mode to us, like Tupperware, cracked, stained, but still useful. But the truth, it doesn't fit our lives anymore. We're the generation trying to figure out how to be both grateful for what they endured and honest about what it did to ourselves. Are you with me? If you grew up in the 90s, which I'm hoping most of you listening to this have or did, you remember the unspoken rules. Don't talk back. Big one. Respect your elders. Man, that brings back so much. I grew up in a Puerto Rican household. Don't talk back. Oof, that's a big one. Ni me mires. Don't even look at me after they reprimanded you for something. And always respected your elders. That was a big one too. I mean, I still think that way. Still respect my elders. Anyway, let's talk about all of this right now. Because we were kids who felt everything. And for a lot of people out there growing up, therapy wasn't even an option. Therapy wasn't even a thing. I don't think it even existed. I mean, it did, but not openly, right? People would say stuff like, we don't need therapy. We have church. And as I mentioned, us as kids, we felt everything, but didn't have the words for it. You could sense when the adults were stressed, right? They were fighting or breaking down, but no one explained what was happening. So we learned to read the room before we could even read a book. We became little emotional barometers, sensing tension, learning how to make peace, to fix. That's a big one. I still fight with that because I'm a fixer. And to soothe. It's also important. I want you to remember that. But fixing is definitely a big one. Because we were led to believe that we had to fix everything. There was always some type of way that whenever there was an argument or something was breaking down, you could find a fix for it. I don't know why that became a thing. You see, that's the origin story of so many millennial people pleasers. And I mentioned this. We all want to be able to help someone. You see, science back this up now. It does. It really does back it up. Because trauma isn't just emotional, it's biological. It can literally change how genes express themselves. Studies show that children of people who've experienced major trauma, whether it was war, poverty, displacement, can carry the stress responses of their parents. That's a big one, because that is a generational thing. I mean, I served during a time of war. We went through not poverty, but I mean a recession, displacement. Man, are you guys feeling this? Is it opening up your mind to what perhaps maybe you have gone through something close to this, or you've experienced it from someone in your family? Any close ones? I mean, I'm in my 40s. Some of you listening to this are probably the same age. And if you are, that means you've already lived a lifetime of all types of hardships, specifically us millennials. This is why I'm here. It's like emotional muscle memory, by the way, written in our DNA. We didn't just learn to be anxious. We inherited that. Millennials grew up being told to push through. Words like "you're fine," "don't cry," "be strong." God, those "don't cry" is a big one. Don't cry. I'll give you something to cry about. Oof. Parenting 101 right there, huh? You're fine. Don't worry about it. We were definitely told to just like stuff it down. Stuff it all down. Now, Gen Z, and as I mentioned in other volumes, they're breaking that code wide open. They talk about mental health the way our parents talked about the weather. They're in therapy a lot earlier. They're setting boundaries, and they're setting them publicly. Now, sometimes it makes us uncomfortable, watching them say no to things we never felt allowed to question. But I do believe that deep down, there's a little bit of admiration there too, because they're doing what we're still learning to do, to feel without shame. You see, healing generational trauma isn't about blaming anyone and everything. It's literally about awareness. It's saying, I see what happened. I understand where it came from. And I choose something completely different. You see, that's big because you're making your own decisions. All these decisions are based on things that you have seen and experienced throughout your childhood and your life, early adulthood. That might mean going to therapy, journaling, setting new traditions, or just deciding not to yell when you're angry because you remember how it felt to be yelled at. I'm so guilty of that. My emotions tend to get the best of me, and I end up there. I've been guilty of it. I want to say that because I'm better now. I think that I've worked on myself, not 100%, but I've worked on myself long enough to understand where I've been and what I'm doing. And I sometimes still do it, right? Like, you know, you raise your voice like, but you know, it's small, but you know what? That's how cycles end. One choice at a time. And sometimes the most radical thing you can do is rest when your parents never did. That's a big one. There's a lot of big ones in this episode, but resting, because sometimes you're going. That mixed with any generational trauma coming in, anything that you've already, have going on with you, that's a big pot mixed together for something to happen. I mean, for me, I'll tell you guys, I've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen, right? It means seeing your parents as full humans, because people who were once kids too are also carrying their own scars, right? They're much older now, right? If you're listening to me, your parents are much older. And there's just certain things that are just not going to change, no matter how much time has gone by. But like I mentioned before, you also need to see them as humans. They were kids too, and they grew up in a totally different time, and they tried to change certain things to make your life better. Maybe it wasn't perfect, and now maybe you're a parent, now carrying some of that in you, whether you want to admit it or not, or know that it's in there, and you want to do better. You don't want to yell at your kids. You want to give them unconditional love. All of that. So again, your parents were people who were once kids as well. I want to repeat that. They were carrying their own scars, still probably till this day. Now, it also means saying, I love you to your parents and that you still love them. But as I mentioned before, you will be doing things differently. And that's not rebellion. That's just evolution. If your parents are still stuck in a certain way of, well, this is how I raised you and you should do it that way too, then that's a tough road. That's a tough path that you're going to have to walk down. But as I mentioned before, because they are your parents, mentioning and saying to them, listen, I love you guys, but I'm going to parent differently. And that's how we all evolve. That's literally the definition of evolving. So let's answer the question, how do we heal from the pain that's been passed down to us without passing it down ourselves? Well, we start by acknowledging it, by talking about it, by refusing to hide it under the rug. We honor the generations before us, but we stop letting their pain dictate our future. We clean out the emotional Tupperware drawer, keep what still works, and finally throw out what doesn't. And if that means that you have to go to therapy and get a little extra push and get a little extra help and talk to someone that can help you shape things out for you, by all means, please do it. It's out there. Don't let the thought of the past, of how we should handle business, or that's, we shouldn't talk about this and that's taboo. Don't let that shape who you are. Don't let that become the roadblock to where you want to be. Let's talk about what's next up. Our next episode here on This Is Fine, a Millennial Diary, why family group chats are a lot. We're talking about love, chaos, guilt, and those unhinged 47 message threads that start with good morning, memes, and end sometimes in arguments about politics. If that isn't one of the most relatively close, most realistic things that are happening right now, this second, I don't know what else could be, because that's where we're at. That's what we're seeing in the last almost decade. A lot of that has been happening. So please subscribe, share this with someone who's breaking a cycle themselves. Go to alexiscardoza.com where you can find the YouTube and the socials, because we may have inherited the mess, but we're also the first ones cleaning it up. And this is fine.
Goodbye.